Let me start with a story about a grandfather forced to flee Turkey as a boy to escape the Armenian genocide, who became a refugee by settling here in neighboring Bulgaria. Then his son, born at the end of the Second World War into a communist ruling society. But he always dreamt of a life beyond the curtains of the East Bloc. And in order to provide more opportunities and access to some of the best education in the world, his family immigrated in Canada in the 90s. Then the story of the grandson, a boy who saw with his own eyes the fall of the Berlin Wall, the end of the communist regime. But a boy who was lucky to live in 2 continents and travel across 15 countries every year. Now, for many of you in this room, you would remember traveling with a Bulgarian passport in the 80s was often challenging and a humiliating experience. Experience that marked this boy deeply at a very early age and defined his future. I am that boy, and this is the story of my family. And my dream for human mobility continues. I'm determined to ensure the only thing which is outside of our control, yours or mine, the place where we're born, will not dictate who we are, where we can go, or what we can become. We live in the age of global citizens. We live in one of the most incredible times of human history as well. Well, we have today improvements in life expectancy, increase in personal wealth, advance in technology, which is ready to make us populate to Mars. But ladies and gentlemen, we have a tremendous amount of uncertainty on planet Earth. First and foremost, climate change is having a devastating effect both on human and financial costs to our society. Just last year's hurricane season, Irma, Harvey, and Maria destroyed thousands of homes in the Caribbean, destroying 2 economic countries, which I'm a proud citizen, Dominica and Antigua and Barbuda. This devastation will cost our society hundreds of billions of dollars. Today we have 250 million people around the world who are migrants. Experts predict that by 2050, 10% of the world's population will have to migrate from their place of birth because of climate change. Climate change is real, and this number will represent 750 million people. This is 3 times the number of the migrants we have today just in the lifespan of 1 generation. Climate change will affect everybody's life in this room. It is not a question of a if, it's a question of a when. Climate change doesn't respect borders, nationalities, doesn't care if you're poor or rich. Terrorism is also on the rise. Political instability across the world is reaching a new social plateau of stress and anxiety. And from all of this, one thing is certain. Uncertainty is hard to live with. And the primary victims in living in this age of uncertainty are the migrants. Looking at countries like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, one would have assumed that having strong, robust immigration programs have obvious benefits. But I see a disturbing trend. Populist views indicates that people feel differently. And I think that there is something desperately wrong, not with migration itself, but with the way we see it. This has affected me in a deep way. So last year I started a personal quest, engaging in a conversation with global citizens around the world, trying to understand our society's current perspective on migration. I had the privilege of meeting heads of state in the UN, some of the victims of the wars in the refugee camps, social activists, Hollywood celebrities, and from all my conversations, I discovered one vital truth. When we limit human mobility, we're restricting the use of one of the most important social growth tools we have. Human mobility is instrumental for encouraging innovation. I like to see human mobility as a conductor of ideas. It could represent tremendous investment opportunities, a two-way exchange. Let me explain. Currently, the World Bank's reports clearly indicates that if we invest €1 in welcoming migrants, this will bring us €2 of economic benefits in that economy within 5 years if these people are allowed to work. Currently, 40% of the Fortune 500 companies in the US are owned or managed by migrants. While in China, 30% of the Shanghai publicly traded company are owned or managed by Chinese who lived abroad and came back home. So clearly, it is a two-way flow, an exchange of ideas, emotions, and investment opportunities. Are we forgetting as well who is Albert Einstein, Sergey Brin, immigrants, Steve Jobs, a son of a Syrian refugee? The benefits of migration could be transformational. If necessity is the mother of invention, migration is truly the conductor of innovation. Let me repeat it, I think it's important. If necessity is the mother of invention, migration is truly the conductor of innovation. And when we look at Earth from space, we see ourselves as a one. We see only land, water, and atmosphere, a vast openness of unity. No lines, no divisions, no borders, no walls. Our only boundaries are the way we see ourselves. And only borders the way we see each other. If we look at migration as well as a capsule of time, I would agree in the last 10 years, we'll see tremendous challenges in welcoming refugees around the world. But if we look at migration for the last 100 years, on a graphic like we do on a stock market performance, we'll see a consistent upward trajectory of adding value to society. Now, the reality is that in the last 25 years, we have seen tremendous changes. Walls have come down. Transparency in most part of the world, and business and governments have become the norm. As global citizens, this is not a mindset. This is a way of living. It is giving back to society and making sure to improve it with every action we take. Last year, the UN General Assembly, I was listening carefully to Secretary General Guterres, not to Trump, who said that he sees migration as a challenge that can bring the world together. And I quote, "Each country has the right to control their own borders, but this has to be done in a way to protect the people on the move. With a truly global sharing of responsibilities, the number of refugees we face can be managed. Migration should be an option, not a necessity." And as global citizens, you and I, what can we do? Well, first, we must shift away from seeing migration as potential political tool to a tool of potentials. Too many politicians are still using human lives in tragedy to gain or retain power. This has a negative impact on our society, and it doesn't have to be that way. As global citizens, we must as well shift away from seeing migration as a cost to bear to an investment which bears fruits. Let me give you an example. A global citizen tax, how would it work? A percentage of the investment of the wealthy migrants around the world applying for second residence or citizenship would go towards funding the most urgent needs of welcoming and resettling refugees around the world. A truly win-win-win solution. A win for the country, a win for the wealthy, and a win for those in need. Finally, as global citizens, we must as well change our language when we talk about migrants. From negative to positive. We must stop labeling it as a destructive change and suggesting constructive innovation. As global citizens, we must look beyond the world's borders and advocate for changes that will make this planet better for the next generation. We must continue believing in behaviors that will make relief of global citizens around the world, supporting the needs of those in need with every action we take. We're part of a movement which is here to protect the planet for the future generation, but as well by preparing them to take on the challenges that lie ahead. When I look at my family, for generations we have added value to every society that have welcomed us. And I continue my quest to ensure that people will continue seeing migration as a positive element in every society for the next generation. Being political instability, climate change, terrorism, security, we don't have the luxury of time to wait for our governments to get aligned on these topics. People need our help, and they need it urgently. We must act together and act now. Let me leave you with one final thought from Kofi Annan at the last Global Citizen Forum in Monaco. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Ladies and gentlemen, I know we have a long journey ahead, but I know that we can only get there if we go together as global citizens. The movement is waiting for you. Are you ready? Thank you.